All right, what's up, everyone? So we are back, working on the car again. So I did some stuff. I didn't film it, but I should have. But I did get the intercooler at least hung. So you can see it's all mounted up in here. It will fit behind the bumper, believe it or not. The only real trimming that's gonna have to be done is just nip these little corners off here where it kind of sticks out a ways. Other than that, it fits real nice. I actually had the bumper on before I even had it hung, and I think it's a little tighter than it was when I just kind of had it just sitting there somehow. So now we're going to start on the intercooler piping, but I will show you kind of how I mounted it. So for the top side, I just made this little bracket. I kind of just got a little finish work to do on it, but it's just a bent 90, and I just welded a little thing on there. The weld isn't great, but it is decent. I mean, this thing is kind of tricky to weld on, you know. I'm not a professional welder or a fabricator by any means, so I kind of struggle with some of that stuff, but it turned out pretty good. After you get a little bit of heat in this thing, then it's a little easier to weld, but when it's so big, the heat just goes away very quickly. Then for the bottom, I basically just bent up some brackets to hold this up and mount to these two, these are M8 holes right there. So welded them onto this core support, and this thing is just absolutely garbage. Most of them are on these cars. Pretty much everyone I've ever messed with, you know, they've hit something, whether it be curbs or whatever, in their daily life driving. So these were kind of a pain in the ass, and this core support's basically toasted. So if we ever have to redo anything, I'm just gonna cut that off and put a bar there. But yeah, so we're kind of coming along. I think this turned out pretty decent. It's simple enough. I mean, it's one bolt that comes out, and this thing is, I mean, I can't even budge it, so it is sturdy as can be. So now we got pipes to work with, and these are 3.5-inch outlets, and off of the turbo is 3-inch. So I'm going to use this to make it go to 3-inch, and then I got a couple 90s here, and then one piece of straight tubing. So I think, typically I feel like I build all these pipes wrong. Maybe not wrong, but just kind of a dumb way. So what I'm gonna do is get this to be as short as possible, and then I have a quick flange, like the Vibrant one that goes on the throttle body here. I'm gonna get that on there and kind of get all this right here. And then I'm gonna take one of these 90s and make it as short as possible. So it's the tightest bend it can be, shortest amount of length it can be, and then I'm gonna try to fit the other two pieces in accordingly. And I'll probably do the same over here, because this basically is the same. My throttle body is already 4-inch, and I don't really wanna change it. Even though I could, I just don't really wanna buy a 3.5-inch pipe just to get up to there and then change it to 4. So I think I'm gonna try to change it to 4-inch right here, which I ordered another one because I was trying to do it nicely and shorten it how I need to shorten that one. I was gonna part it off in a lathe, but it didn't really work so good, so I wrecked it. But I have another one of those coming, so I'm gonna weld that on here. I have another clamp like my Vibrant one that'll go up there, and I think I have enough pipe to do all that, and I kinda just half-assed pre-fit it, and it seems like it'll work. So I'm just gonna kind of get to work on some of these pipes today, and maybe we can get just this one side done since I'm waiting for a piece on here. And if things go real well, maybe I'll start working off of the throttle body and just try to get around the bend, and then I just got a couple pieces to fit. But that's the plan for today, so I'll do my best on some filming, and you can follow along. All right, so we have partial of a charge pipe going to the intercooler, and this thing is kind of hot because I've been tacking on it. But yeah, it's coming along. I had to let everything cool down. Since my torch is air-cooled, it gets hot pretty quickly. For anyone looking for a cheap welder, I mean, this is an okay welder. It's not my favorite, but it is a Miller Diversion 180. It has done basically all the pipes on this car. I mean, it works good. Good enough for a home welder, you know. But yeah, this thing turned out all right. My least favorite is kind of right in this bend here, just because it's real tight, but that was really all I could do with it to make it actually work. But other than that, so far so good. I just gotta kind of let everything cool off a little bit, and then I'll jump back to it. This is kind of thinner aluminum. I don't think it's thinner aluminum. I just think it's been a while since I've done like a thin gauge, so I gotta use the thin rod on it, but that's all right. Had one little gap that I filled, and that went very smoothly. So rolling along, let it cool off, and keep on welding. that pretty much wraps that up. You can see, you know, some of the welds like there was rolling, then messed up there, and then this one's a little shaky, but it's covered, and you know, I got some work to do, but I don't really pick up a welder a whole lot, so I'm not too upset about it. It will ride just fine. What's up, everyone? It has been a couple days, but I am back in the garage, and I'm gonna keep chipping away at this thing. So as you've seen earlier in this video, I got this pipe done. So it's not my favorite. This is a little tight, but I didn't really have any other way to do it, but it turned out all right, and it will work good. So, and it's nice and sturdy. Everything is fully welded besides the clamp side on the intercooler. I just got to do that once I pull the whole intercooler off to do the other side. But today I'm waiting on one piece to finish that up. So today I'm going to start tearing the intercooler box out. So just a quick tip for anyone who's got to drain a fuel tank. I don't know where we got this or even what it is, but it is just a little pump with a drill attachment. You see I put it on this piece of wood and got it labeled, and then just got some hoses on the ends of it. But that thing works stellar for emptying fuel tanks. I probably pulled, I don't know, 7-8 gallons out of that fuel tank in 2 minutes and basically made no mess at all doing it. So very slick for doing that kind of stuff. It really comes in handy. It just avoids a mess big time. So now basically I have the fuel tank out. As you can see, the trunk is pretty much empty, and then the intercooler box is gonna come out. So that'll go. And then I'm kind of gonna finish up this floor a little bit. It's not unfinished, but it just needs a little work, mostly right where this thing is, because I put this here and I had a piece of sheet metal under it and something happened to it, or maybe I didn't have a piece of sheet metal under. I think it was just the square. All you could see was just the aluminum square on the bottom of it. But something was leaking and I couldn't figure out where. And so then I just put some dry paper under there to keep it from leaking. And then I never eventually found the leak, and then it just stopped leaking. And I don't know, it was really weird. That's why I kind of am excited to get rid of it, because it's just another thing to leak. It's just something else to fail. It's something else that's got to be wired in, and very excited to not have that anymore. And then I can kind of rearrange the trunk and make everything fit a little bit nicer. So that will be fun. But as far as this turbo kit goes, waiting on pipes, but I'm going to keep chipping away at taking this thing apart. All the hoses are going, all the wiring for that thing is going, which is really only 2 wires. And then, yeah, then I'll kind of clean the trunk up and get ready to maybe move these water boxes. So I have these water tanks in there. This is for the radiator being in the rear of the car. And I might move them over to where this is, because I have them right in front of the fuel tank right now, and that's kind of a pain in the butt. So if I move them over here, then I'll have a lot of nice room, and they won't be such a pain in the butt to deal with, because they're not bad now, but then they wouldn't be in the way, and you could take the fuel tank out without having to drain the water, because I can just barely not get the fuel tank out with the water tanks in front of it. And that is a very big fuel tank. It barely fits through this whole opening here. It's pretty crazy. So, but I'm gonna keep chipping away, and see you in a little bit. All right, so the trunk is pretty much bare. Nothing in here. So I got a nice hole to fill there. I'm gonna change some wiring, maybe redo a little bit of this panel. I don't know, we'll see kind of how far we get. But do that. I'm gonna change a bunch of the wiring back here, add in some relays, or I guess the MSD relay panels. So then everything will kind of be much nicer, a little cleaner, more accessible, easier to work on, all that good stuff. Everything will be triggered by the Holley, so that'll be a new change. The fans are now, but like the transmission fan and water pump are not, so I'll change that so it all is. And then I also have a whole bunch of stuff to sell. So I have an air motive 5.0. Come with the mounting bracket. It has mounts for the 10 or the 5.0. 2 MagnaFuel 750s, $400 for these. I was thinking $1,200 or $1,100 for this. I think $1,200. And then $80 for either of these MagnaFuel filters. This is I believe this is just a big pre-filter, and these are post filters. And then $200 for this air motive one. It's a 100 micron -12 entry. And then I also have a refreshed, never used since refreshed air motive 10.0 for $1,800. So if any of y'all are interested in that, let me know. All right, so it is a couple days later, and it's finally nice outside. I'm in a t-shirt, it's like 65 degrees. but we are grinding away at getting this turbo kit done. So it is mostly done. Had the pipe in. This will probably get blocked off. That was a reused pipe. But yeah, it didn't turn out too bad. So you got all that stuff in there. All the pipes fit. Gotta fit the bumper yet, but there's just very little trimming to do there. But now we are going to cut a hole in the fuel tank for my fuel hat. So I got it drawn out, as you can see there. And I tried to do it with a nibbler, but the nibbler just doesn't like the aluminum too much. So it just wasn't gonna do it. So now I'm gonna plasma cut it. So we'll see how that goes. I'll set up a little time lapse and we'll get to it. So it is a couple days later. As I said in the last video, maybe I didn't, but I did run out of welding gas and I still just had a little bit left to do. I had the flanges on the intercooler to weld, and then I had the fuel hat to weld on. So it is now 2-3 days later. I have still been working on the car. I should have probably filmed some, but I just didn't because it was kind of out of order, and then it gets confusing when it comes to editing. But I tore into some wiring things, and that's a bit of a task, and we'll talk some more about that the next video, but here's kind of where I'm at. So we got the relay board. That stuff I'm not really going to mess with a whole lot. It may not be the neatest thing in the whole world or anything like that, but it does work, and everything works really nice. The blinkers work, the headlights work, everything functions. So I just kind of cleaned it up and tied it up a little nicer, but the Holley part of it, I am going to be digging into. So some of these loose leads here are kind of just like ignition wire, stuff like that. I still got to route all those. But I did move the ECU, and I took I had a whole bunch of terminal boards right here, and terminal boards are kind of lame. So I got rid of all of them. And then behind it is EGT and the CAN bus, or the CAN bus EGT and the secondary injector driver. Now I will not run secondary injectors on this car yet, but I will at some point. So I figured I might as well build it into the harness, pin everything in so it's done. And I do actually have that portion of it done. And it did turn out pretty good. I just got my wire loom today, so I will be able to loom all of this, but it is just a long strand of wires with a whole bunch of pins on the end. So I'll loom it all up nice. I probably should have twisted it, and maybe I still can twist the long portion of it. I think that would look pretty nice because that is basically going to be its own lead. But I kind of want to, I might give it a little twist. I know there's a specific way to do it, but I just want to twist it so it's tight. I don't really care if it's super fancy or anything like that. But there is more to go into that harness that will go that direction. Actually, no, there isn't. So I'll probably twist that, and then I can get the other wires in, and then I'll loom it and then tape all up and do all that stuff. So I got a whole bunch of open loom here, whatever you call that stuff, a bunch of different sizes, so that'll come in handy, and just a whole bunch of other parts. So basically going to do a full rewire of the Holley side of this thing, and that other stuff will probably just stay the same unless I decide to change it down the road, which if I do, it really won't be super hard. I'll probably end up moving some things or just doing it a little differently if I do change just like the body harness, you know, the lights and stuff. Like I said, it's not perfect, but everything works, and it works just the way that it should. So I'm not really going to tamper with it too much. I would rather get the Holley stuff really nice, really understand how it works so it makes sense. If you go dig back into it, make it easy to add. I'm going to just like run some just loose leads and have like some Deutsch connectors on the ends. So if I decide to add something, it's kind of just like right there. I sort of got it just laid out on a piece of paper where everything's gonna go and all that stuff. So that'll be a little bit of dinking around, but I'm gonna get this intercooler off, weld it, and then I'm gonna show you one more thing. Should have filmed it, but I kind of tacked it and I was like, all right, I'm kind of feeling good, so I'm not gonna waste any time. But I got the fuel head all welded on and it turned out really nice. And the welds look pretty good. I mean, I'm not a professional welder and I know there's people out there who can do better, but for me, that's not too shabby. Everything fits good, it's tight, there's no pinholes, nothing. So that should be super awesome. Probably not gonna work on that portion of it too much since I got just some other random things. I'd like to just start chipping away at some of the harness before I put the whole trunk back together, because there is quite a bit of wiring to do, and it's 12 days for the first race, first test and tune. Doubt that I'll make it to that, but you know, I want to at least be mostly ready to go by the time that day comes around. So still got quite a bit of work, but a lot of filming left for a lot of fun videos with the wiring and all that stuff, because that'll be my first time trying to make a really nice harness and all that stuff, so that'll be kind of interesting. But yeah, let's get this intercooler off and I'll weld it. All right, fellas, I forgot to film an outro last night, so before work, we'll do it right now. But that is pretty much a wrap here for the turbo kit. I got pressure and temperature sensors on for pre-intercooler, so that will be super cool to have. And then there you can see the finished product. It's all mounted, it's all hung, everything's in. New blow-off valve location. And all clamped, so it should work pretty nice. I had to make a cap for this. This is where the old one was. I reused this pipe, so I'll just make a little cover for it at work instead of trying to cut it off and weld it. That sounds like it would just make it look ugly, but I'm pretty happy with it. My least favorite part is this. I just wish this would have turned out just a little bit nicer. I could have used a little more room, as this one's pulled just a little bit, but it'll be all right. Clamp still fits and everything still fits pretty good, so. But this is a good one. This is a fun little project. I mean, I know there's some welds on here that aren't great, but there's a lot of welds on here that are nice. So definitely getting better with the welder, which is super awesome. It seems like that's something that kind of takes a lot of time to get pretty good at, and I don't really weld a ton. I mean, once I have a project like this, then I'm just constantly welding, it seems like, but other than that, then I'll put it away and I won't touch it for another year. So, but yeah. Turned out real nice. I really like it. I'm super excited to see how the big On3 6-inch intercooler works. I mean, this thing is a freaking unit. So have our data over here for seeing how much air it scrubs and how much temperature it scrubs and all that stuff. So that'll be super neat. Now on to the wiring, which I'll make a whole bunch of videos on wiring. I kind of just give you a little sneak peek. It looks like a mess right now, but I got a whole big long harness laid out and I just gotta trim it, and butt connectors to break off 5-volt to all kinds of different stuff, so that'll be kind of interesting. But I appreciate y'all for watching, and there should be plenty more videos to come. I mean, we got like 12 days till the first test day, which I doubt I'll make, but I'm gonna be trying. So be getting after this thing, doing a whole bunch of work, and hopefully it runs soon. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe.